first congratulate Sheli and Missy Weaver and the extraordinary cast for the wonderful, and the music director and all of these musicians who are wonderful. So as you certainly have seen, this beautiful music and this story that Sheli has created raises a number of political and social issues. Among them, how do we develop our moral compass? What is the relationship between the traumatic events that happen in our lives and mental illness? And what is the relationship between nurture and nature and mental illness? I thought another issue that this story raises is who's responsible? Is the girl alone responsible? Or what's the role or culpability of the parents? And what about the sexual predator? And what issue? And it raises issues around gun control and the easy access that this gun, that the parents left this gun in the house and made it very easily accessible to this young person. And among others, I think it also raises a very challenging issue that we have to deal with in our society, which is weighing the benefits of social media and the internet. On the one hand, it is a powerful educational tool for our youth, and on the other hand, it is very dangerous because it provides access to predators for very susceptible young people. And so these are just some of the issues that I saw, and I wanted to start by asking Sheli if she could talk about the characters that she created and the story and the political and social issues that came to her mind and what she was hoping to portray.
That's all? After all that? I will answer very shortly because really we want to hear from all of you, not from me. You've heard enough from me just now. I would just say, open the newspaper and read the paper. And I'll give you a perfect example. There was a Midwestern girl. She was 14. I actually read this story after I had composed and written the libretto and the music. Midwestern girl, age 14, a rather ungainly, uncomfortable girl, kind of blonde, straggly hair, blue myopic eyes, and yet she created an avatar for herself called Sexy Fairy. And she went online as Sexy Fairy. And she met a man online who started to communicate with her back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And fortunately, somehow the FBI got in on this, which is why it was in the newspaper. It turned out it was one of those TV evangelists who actually met up with this 14-year-old and the FBI caught them. Now, I read that, as I said, after I composed and wrote the libretto. It's an example, though, of what our culture and what our consciousness is carrying. Just one of the issues that Julie brought up. So.
Can I just pose one more question before we'd like to open it up to the audience, which is, Sheli, can you talk a little bit about your...
I love them.
You too. You started your career as a classical pianist, and yet you came to write this very contemporary piece. Can you talk a little bit about your career and how it brought you to where we are today?
Well, I actually composed my first piece when I was 7. And it was just many, many middle C's on many pieces of paper, of manuscript paper. I was born a musician, I've always been one, and I've always done original work along with my classical studies, always, from the word go. And I've done a lot of work, vocal and instrumental, together. I'm very attached to words, and I'm very attached to notes. So they go well together.
Can I open up to anyone who'd like to ask some questions of Sheli?
Or comments.
Or comments, yeah.
What I noticed, and what I'm noticing about the design, having modern music or operatic always dealt with issues of societal confusion, tragedy, torment, jilted lovers, betrayal. It just seems like it's the stuff of the ageless themes of opera, and that even in the 1700s, it was still modern. It was still contemporary at that time. But the idea of this virtual experience that people seem to take as reality, I find is the Pandora's box about the dark side of the internet doorway that you can go into and be something that you are not, and yet other people perceive it as real.
Right. Right. I mean, one of my friends last night at the opening told me that she closed her eyes when the balloons popped. And I looked at her and I said, "You did?" I said, "Do you think that the parents died?" And she said, "Well, yeah, I assume they did." I said, "That's your assumption." You know, I mean, that is not made clear. But it's exactly true what you're saying, because it was just balloons, right? And yet there is a way that this does ring a chord in all of us because of what is happening in our society right now. Absolutely. Thank you. Good comment.
So, I love the girl and the performance, but I was wondering when you were conceiving the show, aside from the older man sexual predator, had you weighed having the child be a boy? Because really some of these issues, the mother who was so driven by peer pressure and wound up being so passive and, you know, essentially influenced by alcohol, and a girl who had no external structure, but who still managed to take her life in her own hands in one way or another, really self-determining her fate. Yet a lot of this could, I mean, it would have been flavored differently had it been a boy. And I was just wondering, had you considered that?
Absolutely, and at first it was going to be a boy. And my grandson was born close to the time that I began writing it. I decided to make it a girl. But it truly could have gone in either direction. It's, you know, these are archetypal characters. If you notice, they don't have names. It's just, you know, child or girl, mother, father, because there's a little of us in all of them. And hopefully not too much, but, you know, we can relate because we've all had moments like those. So yeah, it would be interesting if a boy, maybe the next one. Yes?
Oh, so, well, you answered one of my questions, what inspired you to write this, and the newspaper, the daily news, and things like that, but which came first, the lyrics or music, or?
You know, what is inspiration, you know? It's like, to inspire is to breathe. And I think that as an artist, we take emotions and we magnify them. You know, I mean, think of Shakespeare. I mean, you know, he didn't go around killing people, but he certainly wrote a lot about that kind of thing. And, you know, there is a way that I think as an artist I have access, I'm permeable, let's put it that way. So I have access to a lot of feelings. So to take those feelings and magnify them and then create the characters out of them. And, you know, it's interesting, sometimes the words came first, sometimes the music came first, and sometimes they came simultaneously. And it came from, it took me 8 years to write and compose it. And I think it was the evolution of the character and the story.
I'm just going to give you some feedback.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you some of the things that really affected me.
Okay.
I was very moved by instrumental music. It was very beautiful.
Thank you.
And a very interesting amalgamation of instruments that you have there. And it worked so well with the story. And that's really hard to do, not just the song, but the instrumental music itself is, I thought, quite stunning.
Thank you so much, I so appreciate that. I really feel that if there's any redemption at all in this piece, it is through the music and the piece and the good feeling that we get from the music as opposed to the story. And creating it with, first of all, it was an extremely unconventional score, and it's actually created from a Baroque perspective. I'm a Baroque-nick, I'm also a harpsichordist, and I compose for early instruments. And there was a great deal of Baroque, there was counterpoint. I mean, the bass played counterpoint, it played melody at times, it was very unusual. And having the electric piano and the electric bass gave it that really contemporary feeling. And the bass player who plays an opera all the time said, you know, I've never played an electric bass in an opera before. So that was cool. So thank you.
One other thing to
Yes.
tell you, I thought the way the story, I don't know if the story was book, the way it evolved, it really built suspense. And the last scene was very terrifying.
Yes.
I mean, it really, the whole rhythm of the thing, the way it got to that point, and then of course the way it played out with these, you know, the suspension, you know, nothing happened fast and all of that. I mean, I don't usually get pulled in. I was really
thank
like,
you.
oh gosh, what is she gonna do? Oh, she's not gonna, oh please, she's not gonna do this. Oh my God, am I gonna have this?
Am I going to have to close my eyes when those balloons pop?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's excellent. Yes, Sharon.
I wanted to ask the performers, the artists, what you thought of working with this material of Shelley's work.
Challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because in traditional opera, certainly there are some of these same themes, but this is in a much more direct, in some ways, a much more direct, compelling way.
Yeah, but I think the counterpoint you're talking about when I'm singing bass,
Uh-huh.
And I really was comfortable with it because of my contemporary perspective of being a modern person living in this world where these stories are playing out every day. You open up, like just, 3 days ago with the military base. You know, you go to your email, you're just like, the email is like, oh, you know, some other terrible thing has happened again. And I just feel like it's so much, violence is so much a part of our society. And also being a contemporary person too, it's very Kurt Weill, this piece, you know, it's allegorical and it's got kind of an angular quality to it. And I really relate to that kind of music and that kind of theater. So for me, it was like putting on a really great pair of jeans.
Thank you, Shelley. Oh,
Can I ask, you weren't here for the question, but the question was, can you talk about what the experience was like for you in working on this piece, which deals with so many contemporary political issues and social issues?
Well, whew. What you guys talking about in here? Well, first of all, it's been long. It's been long. Because I started working with Sheli on some of this music back in '06.
Yeah.
'06. And we talk about the music and it a lot of the conversations would center around things that would really happen in these dysfunctional lives, and let's not play around with what we think somebody ought to see or something somebody ought to hear. No, this stuff happens. And I just really wanted to bring the realism to the story, because if I get a chance to do that, then perhaps we'll touch a piece of you that has experienced it and give you a chance to bring that to the fore again and sense that world. And that's my job. That's all I want to do. I want to bring forth, you know, things that have happened in your life back up for you, And this is a great work to be able to do that with. Absolutely.
I mean, the big mirror, it's really shining a mirror on all of us.
Is it? We have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Yeah, hi Sheli, how much of the 8 years did your honing of the libretto take? And did you have to change it as time went by and
No, not
technology or whatever
really.
changed or anything?
It was pretty clear to me, because I'm a bit of a wordsmith, so I was able to work it. It did change when I started to work with Missy, though, the director, who is brilliant. This is a collaboration, and it was thrilling to work with such talented people who were also interested in the themes that I'm interested in. So, you know, there were times where, for instance, I would repeat a phrase, and Missy would say to me, well, can you say it the same way, but not use the same words? And this is like right as we started working together in January. So yes, I would take that phrase, and I would redo it so that it had a little bit more punch. What was it? The pain, the one with the pain. Well, can't remember now, but there are a lot like that. And in general though, overall, no. A lot of it didn't change. I added things because Missy wanted things here and there. So I came up with and added things. And the cast certainly every now and then came up with words. Like Joe came up with some words that he would have rather sang. And everybody was extremely cooperative. They always checked back with me, which was really nice, almost all of them. But, it was a collaboration in that sense. So yeah, it's great.
Hi Sheli, I wanted to say, first of all, that the piece really worked. I absolutely loved the music, and I thought the story was quite intense and moving, and I liked some of the humor in the words because it was a little bit of a relief from some of the intensity. And I guess my question is, when you were writing the script, did you have an idea of how you wanted the piece to end when you started, or did you write like beginning, middle, and end, or did you?
I wrote beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
Absolutely, and I did not know, and I still don't know. Do you think they died? Does anybody here assume that they died?
I assume
You assume, you assume.
I thought they did.
Well, that's what you have all projected into it. Because I have not said, and I will not say.
The dad lived.
Yeah.
What's that?
The mother died, but the dad lived.
Ah, okay. Yes,
Because I keep saying, no, you died and I lived. I want to come back to the next one.
But she's too mean to die.
That's right, I need a good die, yeah.
No, the bad don't get into the sequel.
obviously, there you go.
Can we give
Debate
her,
continues.
we have to be out of here by 10, but can we give Sheli another round of applause?